Our culture teaches us to search for betrayal on the luminous screens we carry in our pockets. We are instructed to become digital detectives, to hunt for the smoking gun in an archived message, a suspicious GPS location, or a new password that rises like a wall in a once shared territory. This hunt for concrete evidence, while seemingly logical, is in fact a trap that distracts us from the essential truth. It focuses our attention on the symptom while ignoring the disease, leading us to search for a specific event when betrayal, in its deepest essence, is not an isolated act to be discovered, but a climate to be felt. A subtle yet seismic shift in the very atmosphere of the relationship, something our intuition registers long before any digital proof ever materializes. But what if the most honest confession comes not from a technological slip, but from a fracture in the man's own psyche? What if the truth is not hidden in a device, but exposed in his very presence, in the energy he involuntarily emanates? The question we must dare to ask is this: are we searching for betrayal in the right place? As we drown in the anxiety of deciphering the digital world, perhaps we are ignoring the analog language of the soul, which does not know how to lie. The real evidence is not found in a passcode, but in a dissonance that settles into the symphony of the relationship, a persistently off-key note that disturbs the harmony, which only an attentive heart can truly hear. The great psychologist Carl Jung taught us that the human psyche yearns for wholeness and integration. A secret of the magnitude of an infidelity acts as a contrary force to this natural impulse, creating an internal fracture, a silent civil war. This division between the man he pretends to be, his persona, and the actions he hides in his shadow, consumes a vast amount of psychological energy. To maintain these two separate worlds is a Herculean effort, and it is precisely in this effort that the truth leaks out. The behaviors that give him away are not mistakes. They are the inevitable manifestations of this fracture, the surface tremors that signal the violent collision of tectonic plates in the depths of his being. The first behavior that emerges from this internal fracture is, paradoxically, an almost aggressive performance of virtue. The guilty man does not necessarily become distant. Often, he becomes excessively present, almost suffocating in his demonstration of affection and devotion. He suddenly transforms into the idealized partner, one who brings flowers for no reason, plans romantic dinners with a suspicious frequency, and fills the space with declarations of eternal love. This is not the natural, serene flow of a secure love, but rather the noise of a frantic construction, a desperate attempt to erect a facade of perfection so dazzling that it might blind the keenest observer to the decay setting in behind the walls. According to Jungian psychology, this phenomenon is a clear example of compensation. The psyche, feeling the weight and darkness of the shadow's deeds, compels the persona to shine all the more brightly to restore balance, albeit an illusory one. The grandeur of the gestures is often directly proportional to the magnitude of the hidden transgression. Carl Jung would say that the more saintly the mask, the darker the face it conceals. He is not trying to love you more. He is desperately trying to silence his own conscience and, by extension, your intuition. It is an emotional bribe, an attempt to pay in advance for the pain he knows, on some level, he is causing. This sudden avalanche of perfection has a profoundly disorienting effect on the person who receives it. It generates a brutal cognitive dissonance. Your intuition feels a chilling void, yet his actions present a narrative of passionate devotion. This tactic, often unconscious, is designed to make you question your own sanity, to lead you to believe that your suspicion is a form of ingratitude or paranoia. He creates a stage where his virtue is the main event, forcing you into the role of an audience member who, if she dares to doubt, will feel like the villain of the story. It is a brilliant trap, woven from the very threads of your hope for a renewed love. In direct contrast to the performance of virtue, or often alternating with it in a confusing cycle, are two interconnected behaviors: the imposition of an emotional drought and the aggressive defense of new territory. The drought manifests as an abrupt withdrawal of genuine intimacy. Conversations lose their depth, His interest in your emotions vanishes, and the space once filled with a warm complicity becomes an arid and silent desert. The vital energy, the libido in the Jungian sense, which once irrigated the relationship, has clearly been diverted elsewhere, leaving the primary connection to die of thirst, a plant that no longer receives water or light. Simultaneously, he begins to guard his electronic devices as if they were state secrets. The mobile phone, once left casually on the table, now lives in his pocket or face down. He takes calls in another room or becomes visibly tense when you approach while he is typing. Carl Jung would interpret this not just as secrecy, but as the psyche establishing a fortified border around his new reality. He is not just hiding information. He is actively defending the perimeter of his secret world, treating his partner as a potential threat to this newly declared sovereignty. These two signs are intrinsically linked. The energy that is withdrawn from the shared world is the same energy that fuels and demands the protection of the secret territory. One reality withers so that the other can flourish in secrecy. For the partner, this dynamic creates an unbearable sense of exile within her own home. She is not only deprived of the emotional nourishment she needs, but she is also treated like a suspicious foreigner in her own sanctuary. It is a dual violation, that of abandonment and that of exclusion, which leaves her questioning not only his love, but her own right to belong in the life she helped to build. Perhaps one of the most insidious and psychologically damaging behaviors is the fourth sign, the systematic rewriting of the relationship's history. He begins a subtle but persistent process of falsifying your shared memory, a tactic known as gaslighting. Moments that were once celebrated as pillars of your union are now recounted in a new light, tinged with negativity and disappointment. He may deny promises he made, distort past events, or insist that you've always been too sensitive, causing you to doubt your own memory and perception. He is not just lying about the present, he is waging a war against your past. The psychological necessity behind this behavior is profound and desperate. In order for a man to live with the cognitive dissonance of betraying something he once valued, he must convince himself that it was never truly valuable to begin with. Jung would say that this is the psyche's attempt to rewrite history, to justify the present, to lessen the intolerable guilt. By transforming a golden past into something flawed and unsatisfying, he creates a retroactive justification for his betrayal. He no longer sees himself as a traitor to a sacred love, but as a fugitive from a prison that he has constructed in his own mind. For the woman experiencing this, the impact is devastating. It is a violation that goes beyond the heart, attacking the very fabric of her reality. Our identity is woven from our memories. When someone we trust begins to actively unravel those threads, we feel ourselves disintegrating, losing the ground beneath our feet. This is not a simple argument over facts. It is an assault on her sanity, an attempt to isolate her on an island of uncertainty, making her feel mad for remembering the love that he is now trying so hard to erase. It is the most intimate form of betrayal, for it attacks not the body, but the mind. We now arrive at the fifth behavior, the seismic epicenter of this psychological crisis, the sign that is truly unmistakable. It resides in no action, word, or absence, but rather in the quality of his gaze. The moment comes when you look into the eyes of the man you love, searching for the familiar refuge of your connection, and you meet a stranger. It is not a look of anger or of guilt. It is a look of non-recognition. He looks at you with the polite distance one affords a shop assistant, or worse, he looks through you, as if you were a pane of glass onto a thought or a desire that lies elsewhere. The light of communion, of the soul seeing the soul, has been extinguished. In the profound architecture of the psyche described by Carl Jung, this disconnection has a name, the projection of the anima. The anima is a man's inner feminine archetype, his bridge to the world of the soul, of emotion, and of deep relation. When a man is integrated, his anima allows him to see his partner as a whole being, in a communion of souls. In the drama of infidelity, however, he frequently projects his anima onto the other person. She becomes the external carrier of his soul. Consequently, he is psychologically incapable of seeing you. The bridge that connected him to your soul is, quite literally, occupied elsewhere, and without it, soul-to-soul communication is impossible. This is the unmistakable sign because it is an involuntary confession of the psyche. A man can train himself to lie with his words, he can stage acts of affection, and he can erase his digital tracks. But he cannot command his soul to be present when it has already departed. He cannot manufacture the light in his eyes. The absence of that light is a biological and energetic truth that your intuition registers with an absolute and chilling certainty. It is a knowledge that does not pass through the mind, but lands directly in the body. A shiver down the spine, a knot in the stomach, that tells you unequivocally, he is no longer here. The internal fracture also manifests in the sixth behavior, the complete loss of logical coherence in his communication. His stories about how he spent his time become vague, full of holes and contradictions. His language, once an instrument of connection, becomes a labyrinth designed to confuse and exhaust. He is constantly managing two maps of reality, and his speech becomes the reflection of this chaotic navigation. Trying to have a clear, direct conversation with him is like trying to catch smoke. The truth is always slipping through your fingers, leaving a trail of frustration and confusion. Alongside this warped logic, the seventh sign settles in, the energetic void. This is more than emotional distance. It is a palpable sense that the gravitational force that held your worlds in orbit has ceased to exist. The relationship, which once had its own energy, a vitality that animated it, becomes inert and heavy. Carl Jung referred to the libido not merely as sexual energy, but as the totality of a person's life force. When that force is being channeled into a secret project, the main project is inevitably left without power. He may be physically present, but his life force, his attention, and his psychic investment are absent. To live in this atmosphere of warped logic and energetic void is profoundly draining. You find yourself spending your own life force trying to decipher his stories and attempting, alone, to reanimate a connection that is being actively emptied by him. This exhaustion you feel is not a sign of your weakness. It is a testament to your perception. It is your nervous system accurately registering the toxicity of an environment devoid of truth and presence. It is your body telling you that you are trying to breathe in a place where the oxygen has been deliberately removed. To recognize these signs is to begin an inevitable and painful descent into your own inner world. This is not just the pain of betrayal, but the shock of seeing the reality you considered solid crumble like sand. It is a direct confrontation with chaos, a moment when all certainties are suspended. Jungian psychology would see this period not as an end, but as an initiation, a dark night of the soul, which, though terrifying, is a prerequisite for a higher consciousness and for a strength you do not yet know you possess. This journey forces you into an encounter with the shadow archetype. You are confronted not only with his darkness, but with the reality of the shadow in the human condition, the capacity for disillusion, for loss, and for betrayal. This brutal confrontation also forces you to look at your own shadow, at the parts of yourself that may have chosen denial over truth, dependency over autonomy. It is a process of purification by fire, where illusions about love, about others, and most importantly about yourself, are burned away until only the ashes of truth remain. In this process, the feeling of isolation can be overwhelming. Society offers simplistic solutions for a pain that is profoundly complex and existential. But this is a journey that, in many respects, must be walked in the solitude of your own heart. It is a test of your resilience, an invitation to discover what you are made of when everything that supported you externally is taken away. It is in this space of apparent desolation that the seed of your own wholeness, your individuation, begins to germinate, nourished by the very pain that threatened to drown you. The overcoming of this ordeal results in an alchemical transformation. The pain, once processed, turns into power. The woman who emerges from this descent into shadow is not the same. She has learned to navigate the darkness, and therefore her own light shines more brightly. She discovers that her wholeness and her worth are non-negotiable and were never dependent on the validation or fidelity of another. By being forced to withdraw her energy from him, she learns to invest it in herself. And so, she becomes whole, and therefore, dangerous to all that is false and inauthentic. Have you felt this energetic vacuum settle into your home? Have you looked into the eyes of the man you love and met a stranger looking back? Your experience is real, your pain is valid, and your intuition is your most sacred compass. We invite you to share your story in the comments not as a victim, but as a witness to your own resilience. Subscribe to our channel to continue this journey of soul exploration. Remember this always, you are not alone on this crossing. What feels like a falling apart is, in fact, a necessary demolition so that something truer and stronger can be built in its place. You are not being unmade, you are being remade. You are not ending, you are awakening to your own unshakable wholeness.